Hi there. I'm going to take a minute to explain our Simonton one-on-one coaching cycle for the 2017-18 school year. We're doing something different, and we recognize that it's a really new process for a lot of people, and so we want to make sure everyone's on the same page and we all have clarity about how the coaching process is going to work this year. So, we want to start off by explaining that it's a dramatic difference from your evaluation process. When you meet with your administrator, they're assessing your teaching skills, and when you meet with your coach, it's not the same. We're really looking at what your kids are doing, and that's why this process is valuable for anyone, no matter how much experience they have, because every year you have a different group of kids. You might have kids who are very similar to kids you've had in the past, and you might have kids who need something really different from you. And so we always focus on student-centered coaching, not evaluating your teacher practice. So when we come in, we're not necessarily looking to see, are you modeling effectively? Are you pulling groups the way you need to? That's not really our focus. It becomes our focus once we determine what kids need from you. So if you decide you want your kids doing something, then we'll come back and see what the teacher's steps are to make that happen. So let's just quickly walk through the process. You may have already done this, and if not, then we'll just kind of explain what this is. We're using a coaching rubric that's kind of nailed down 10 of the most important things we want to see in kids. When students are successful, they're doing these 10 things pretty consistently. So the rubric is split into two categories. You have culture and rigor. And so in the culture category, you're looking at expectations, sense of urgency, connection to the teacher, respect, and interdependence. So if kids are doing those things really well, your classroom environment should be really strong, and it might be a range between destructive and passionate, urgent, and joyful. In a destructive classroom, you've really got like a dangerous situation, and we don't really have that here at Simonton, but just so you know what that would sound like. An apathetic and unruly situation is where you feel like kids don't care. They're not doing what they need to do, and it's not the best environment for learning. In a compliant and on-task environment, kids are pretty much doing what they're supposed to do. They do what's asked of them majority of the time. In an interested and hardworking environment, kids are really starting to drive their own learning. The teacher's not really asking them to do a lot. They're kind of doing it on their own because that's just what they think they should do. And lastly, in a passionate, urgent, and joyful classroom, the classroom runs itself. And so in those environments, those are the ones where you can say the sub is here, but the class kind of just continued as normal because they have such a passion for their own learning. Okay, and so that's the culture side of the rubric. Then the rigor side of the rubric looks at lesson connection, which is, can kids tell you what the lesson is about? Investment in goals, do they understand what they are and why they matter? Engagement, is that's staying on task. DOK mastery is using the wheel and seeing what level of thinking are kids mastering. And unit mastery, which is about retention and understanding. We've taught that skill, but do you still remember it? And do you know how to hop between skills on an assessment? So the teacher will rate where their class is on a scale of 0 to 3. A 0 is 0 to 25% of your kids, or it's something that's happening rarely. A 1 is between 26 and 70% of your kids, or it's just happening sometimes. A 2 is 71 to 85% of your kids, or it's happening often. And a 3 is almost always, or 86 to 100% of your kids. And so the two important things you need to know about that scale is that we've got that 26 to 70% at a 1 for a reason. That's a huge range. But we understand that if we don't have more than 3/4 of our kids doing something, it feels like it's not happening. If you have 10 kids out of your 25 kids who aren't doing what you want them to do, it feels like nobody's doing what they're supposed to be doing. And that's not the case, but that's what it feels like. And so that range is large on purpose. And then lastly, we're at a 3 with 86%, which means we're not trying to get every single kid to do something for us to say we've mastered a coaching cycle. And yes, ideally, we want 100% of kids, but it doesn't mean that we need to do coaching work if you have 1 or 2 kids who aren't getting with the program and really need a different type of support. So while we always shoot for 100%, 86% is exactly where we want to be to say that we've got our culture where we need to be, or the majority of our kids are matching rigorous learning. So once you set a goal with your coach and decide, this is what I want my kids doing that they're not doing right now, Then the coach will talk with you about what do you need to do more of or less of to make that happen. Why are your kids not doing that yet? What do they need from you? And so once we lay that out, that's our coach work. That tells us as a coach how we can support you. And so you might have us model for you the skill that you decided you need to work on. We could co-teach and do it together. You could ask us to observe you and give you some feedback. Maybe you feel comfortable and you just want to give it a try. You could also have us role play with you, and that might mean we're doing it before you actually even teach it. We're practicing it together so that when you're in front of your kids, you feel ready. And most importantly, we can do something completely different. Those are things people have asked for in the past that work, but you might decide you need a resource, or you might decide you need something different, and we're open to that. Our goal is to get your kids doing the thing that you named that you want to see in your classroom. And so we hope that the coaching process is very supportive and not evaluative. And if at any time you feel like it's evaluative, then we need to shift goals. And you are going to be evaluated. That's just part of teaching, but that's not part of our coach work. So we hope you understood, and if you have questions, please reach out to your CST, or any of us can answer those questions for you. But we want to just clarify what we hope the coaching process feels like. We want you to feel supported. We want you to feel clarity about where your kids are going to go next. And we want you to have an idea of how to get there. We don't want you to feel like, man, I'm just stuck with the class that's not doing the thing I want them to do. You are the person who is committed to fixing that, and we're the person to help you get there. We believe that the research says the teacher is the #1 influencing factor in a classroom, and the only thing that really drives student mastery is the teacher. And so you are powerful in creating any kind of environment and any kind of rigor that you want, and we're here to help you do that. Okay? So once again, if you have any questions, please reach out to your CST, and we'll be happy to answer those for you. Have a great day.